If your flyer is suddenly having to be a base, or your base is having to be a flyer when they've done their position forever, it can be very challenging. And you may wonder, what do you need to do to help your athlete do better in their new position? On this week's Cheer Athlete podcast, we're going to talk about ways you can help your cheerleader transition from a base to a flyer, or a flyer to a base, and what my experience has been in that going forward. Welcome to the Cheer Athlete Podcast, where we bring coaches, parents, and athletes expert tips and advice to help keep cheerleaders healthy, strong, and at the top of their game. Now let's go. So welcome to the Cheer Athlete. I'm glad to have you with me today. If you don't know me, I'm Laura Turner. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I'm a certified functional strength coach, and I help cheerleaders prevent injuries and get stronger so that they can stay cheering for life. I'm really passionate about helping flyers improve their flexibility and bases reduce their back pain. I think it's really important for all cheer athletes to be involved in a strength conditioning program that includes a proper warm up, that includes actually lifting weights and improving their strength. And I think it's important to do conditioning, but maybe not as much as we think while we're in season. And I've been preaching about this for a long time. So go back and listen to other episodes about strength training. I've done a bunch of different episodes. The episode with Maria Weissman is great. She's a big strength coach and a physical therapist as well. And she's doing really amazing things with cheerleaders to help them progress their strength. So go check out that previous episode. Let's dive in a little bit into, what happens when a base transitions to be a flyer. This, I think, is the best transition that there can be, because I think every flyer needs to know what it feels like to have been a base, to know what it feels like to hold somebody in the air, to, when you're basing and you have a new flyer, they are very heavy. And I don't mean scale heavy. I mean, when they're learning, they are kind of dead weight, and they're just flopping in your hands. When they get stronger and they learned how to hold their body and they can pull themselves up, it's not as heavy as when they're just learning. So a new base or a new flyer coming in may feel really super heavy to a base, but somebody that's been basing kind of has that concept of it. They're used to having to be strong. They're used to having to put some really tighten their muscles to get under the stunt. And so I find that they actually transition into holding themselves up better at flyers when they are able to transition. As long as they're not afraid of flying and they're ready to do that. They may not have the best flexibility and be able to pull a needle, but they usually progress to being able to pull a heel stretch. If they're doing jumps, they've got that flexibility there. They just have to coordinate it when standing on one leg. But their ability to base and the strength that they are expected to have really is important in transition over to a flyer. And so I encourage every flyer to actually base. Now, they may not be throwing up, extended stunts. Maybe they're just learning at a lower level, but then they learn how to hold their body. Even on the thigh stand, which I don't see anybody doing thigh stands anymore, but it really is a great way to build in leg strength, to know that you have to hold and what it feels like to tighten your muscles, and it to adjust to that slight little wobble. So those thigh stands can really be a great way to kind of just learn how to base, learn how to fly, and start that building block. Back when I was coaching, that was the standard. Start at a thigh stand, work your way up to a prep, and then get to extended stunts and beyond. I know it's different now. But it's still a great learning tool to really, so if I stand, your base is in a lunge and you're locking your back leg out and your front leg, the leg that they're standing on is bent, and the flyer climbs up and you have to be able to hold them steady. So the flyer, who used to be a base, has to learn how to keep the ribs down, how to squeeze your butt, squeeze your thighs, and stand as tall as you can. The base has to learn how to grip. So that flyer has to learn, oh, my flyer is going to be wobbly. I need to hold steady. And then when they transition back and forth, they feel what they have felt, what the other person usually feels. And I think that's a great experiential learning experience for every cheerleader to have. Not every flyer is going to become a base, and not every base is going to become a flyer. Some people are just built for the position that they're in. And when I say base, I mean base, back spot. I know there's nuances and differences there, but for the context of this conversation, talking the same thing. There was a question on the Crazy Cheer Moms group that, how do I improve the, in essence, like changing her shape because she's, has strong legs, and, to do more conditioning so that she can look leaner up in the air, or look taller in the air. And uh, it took me aback a little bit because the answer to anybody trying to slim down or to tone, and to look more toned, is to strength train, and it's to build strength. Now, when we do conditioning and we're not building strength, we actually can lose muscle mass. So you'll frequently see, like, runners, they don't do a whole lot of strength training unless they really have been through an injury and know they need to, get things stronger. And they are very lean, and their muscles are very trim. And yes, that conditioning will help to decrease that size. The sacrifice there is the strength. And that's the key thing. Like, if your flyer has strong legs and a strong core and able to hold body position, the rest is just going to fall in place. Dynamics change in the bodies as kids grow, that changes as a whole. So trying to force it, personally, I don't think that that's a great idea. I think it's really super important for them to keep working on strength, to actually work in that 8 to 10 rep range and 3 sets of 8, so that they can continue to build that strength as they progress through the season. That's how they're going to be a better flyer, is by strength training. And presumably they've already done some squats and some deadlifts, because they are basing, and that's the form that they've learned. And that absolutely carries over into everything that they do, to help balance on one leg, to be able to stand up tall, to change body positions and hold through transitions. That's what's super important. Flyers need to be twice as strong, one might say, as a base. When they transition into co-ed stunting, they need to be able to jump, and they need to be able to, like, explode off, and then they need to be able to hold still. So that having that strength and that power in the legs is really important. And yeah, sometimes things look a little thicker, and that's okay. That's the point. You can still gain mobility in your hips and your knees and your back to be able to do all the other fun tricks. It just might take some time to get there, and doing that gradually, doing mobility drills, making sure you have that good warm up, loosening up your inner thighs as well as strengthening the front of your thighs, can help to get that moving in the right direction sooner. Every cheerleader is working on their jumps, so they're all working on the same flexibility anyways. Whether it's a hurdler or a toe touch, that's all going to work the same mechanics that a flyer needs, and it's going to help build the strength for a base as well. So those normal drills will fall into place, helping that happen faster. Get them in the gym, get them strength training. If you can't get to the gym, I understand that, but do a workout at home. Grab my strength and conditioning book and flip through and find exercises that they can do at home. It's scannable, it's all on YouTube. So you find, what you can work out at home, but getting into a regular exercise routine that they're working out on top of cheer and strength training 3 to 4 times a week. Maybe they do an extra conditioning when they're, you're diving right now. It's December 2nd, 2025 right now. And so we're kind of coasting a little in December, but then we're going to ramp right up into heavy duty competition season starting in the new year. So it's not really the time to go build the conditioning. That needs to happen between May and September. Right now, it's maintain that conditioning. And if they're running practices full out, if they're doing repetitive stunts, they're getting a lot of conditioning in practice. So they might need a little bit more downtime. Certainly, I think maintaining is a good idea. If they didn't have a hard practice and they can come home and do a little mini HIIT workout to build conditioning, that's good. It's going to get some strength and power in there too. But it all depends on where your cheerleader is at and in that moment in time. So key thing to transition from a base to a flyer or from a flyer to a base is strength. Every single cheerleader needs to work on strength training and needs to build mobility, do a proper warm up their adductors, their inner thighs, strengthen their hip flexors, strengthen their glutes so that they have the power to jump. Um, really knowing their core positioning, not just doing 1,000 crunches, but being able to bring the ribs down, get the ribs stacked over the pelvis so that they maintain their core neutral while they move their arms and their legs doing whatever they're doing. And every single cheerleader needs that in whatever position they're in. The flexibility, the training of that will come over time, and the repetition of pulling a heel stretch or a scale or a scorpion, will come over time as they have the strength to be able to stand on one leg, to be able to do other activities like, so an exercise you might try, stand on one leg and do a row or a high row. That's going to really work your upper back as well as challenge your balance. And then it's mimicking what you're doing up in the air. Working on flexibility at nighttime, doing some before they go to bed, let them sit, chill out, just kind of do some easy, gentle stretching will help also. But really, it's the strength training that needs to happen, and the conditioning that happens over time. Like give it time. We all want things to happen like that, but that's just not how the body works. And when we push it, that's when injuries occur. If you push too fast to change and push your flexibility too fast, you run the risk of having a muscle tear, like a hamstring tear, that lasts and lingers for a long time. If you don't do the proper core strength at the same time, that's double the risk. If you try to forcibly kick your leg up, you run the risk of really over contracting your hip flexor, and you might have back pain. You might injure your labrum. So there's all kinds of risk for trying to get there too fast, but when we can build gradually and stack each building block, that can really, I think changing positions and having each being able to go back and forth is just a beautiful thing when it comes to having something on a team. And I know that high schools and college teams definitely want people that are flexible, that can jump in anywhere. We look at transitions. Sometimes the flyer needs to come down and be a base for a secondary, for a pyramid and for a transitional pyramid. So I think it's real important for everybody to learn those different positions. It doesn't need to happen when they're 7 and have to focus, but as they're progressing, I think that's a key thing. And the more we can do that, the better. Life doesn't always allow that because we're trying to just get everything in and get that routine down. But, when the opportunity arises, take it and know that if you're strong enough to base, you are strong enough to fly. You still need to keep working on getting stronger so that you can do it with the ease and that you keep building that strength so you can keep progressing over the course of time. Hope that answers some questions. The link to my book is in the show notes, and I do have a special going right now that, if you buy it from me, you will get extras like bonuses and done for you workouts and tracking sheets. And there's other things. And so just check out the webpage and you'll see all that. I also have strength and conditioning programs for flyers and for bases that are available. And if you're interested in that, I'll post those links below. Now's the best time. I think between now and May, you can get your kids doing strength work outside of practice 2 or 3 times a week. They're going to set themselves up for having a strong finish to the competition season. And when they get into the off season, they're going to be that much better to then start progressing and really kind of build some power. And that's when get in, do that more heavy duty conditioning. So check them out. And if you have any questions, just let me know. You can reach me always at laura@movebetterllc.com, or you can find me on Instagram at the Cheer PT or on Facebook, the Cheer Athlete. I think that's what this is. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Here in Massachusetts, it's in the Northeast, it's winter hit today. And it's cold, it's raw, but we are so blessed to have our home roof over our head, and hopefully you're staying warm wherever you are. And I hope you had a great Thanksgiving with your family and time to really get to the next 3 weeks and just enjoy the ride as we keep moving forward. I hope you have a great day. Don't forget, when in doubt, breathe out. take life one step at a time. You can do anything you put your mind to. And as my friend Drew Kelleher said, you're responsible for your own vibes. So go get the day.